Spain is not Europe. Yeah, Italians are not Europeans. Got it, bro. Got it.
Jesus called people vipers like you. Even when we have full spectrum dominance in culture.
He was calling out the conservative religious bosses when he did that, my friend.
We are far better and leadership capacities than secular atheists are. Guys like this, their entire
you should be in power, right?
The entire
power for the Christian, yes, power above others.
The entire crux of what you want is just gay sex, right? Isn't that really what your criticism is?
No, sir. You're lying
sex?
About me because the argument makes you uncomfortable.
What are you upset?
No, sir.
What are you upset about cultural Christians for? What are you actually upset about here?
If
Christians are in power,
to follow the
what do you
teachings
think's
of
going to
Christ.
happen to you? What do you think's going to happen to you if Christians are in power? What?
I think that the Founding Fathers were very specific more than once and said in the Treaty of Tripoli, ratified by Washington, signed by Adams, the government of the United States is in no way founded on the Christian religion. I don't consider your movement to be of Christ, my friend. I don't consider your movement to be of Christ.
Okay, if everyone talks at the same time, I can promise you. Hang on.
Trump's trying to ban an entire religion from entering the country, my friend.
They should. They should. They should have no problem with that. Because the people that are just coming in, which are the Muslim, basically, they're not, if they take power, we already saw in Dearborn, Michigan. I mean, these people got power and there were some Christian trying to just say, you know what, it's not okay what you guys do. And the guys say, like, you get out, you're Islamophobe. And you know what these people did? The Christians did? Nothing. They had to just let it go. Like, we have to be real about these things, guys.
If everyone talks at the same time, I can guarantee you one thing: nobody can understand.
Terrorists from entering the country.
No one will understand what anyone says if you all talk over each other. Please, guys, if you talk over each other, no one can hear a word you're all saying. Isabel.
The Founding Fathers were actually quite clear that you were expected to understand a working knowledge of submission to God in order to be an active participant in governance in the United States. Of the 13 original states, all of them, every single original state constitution of the 13 states required a declaration of faith to serve in the state government. 9 of them required you to have a declaration of faith as a Christian to serve in the state government. The Declaration
of Independence. And yet the U.S. Constitution forbids it.
Our relationship to God.
No, it refers it to the 10th Amendment. Have you heard of the 10th Amendment?
And they had a better
The First Amendment forbids a religious test.
All right, let Isabel finish her point, then I'll come to the others.
In fact, the book of Deuteronomy is the most quoted book in America's founding documents by leaps and bounds, more than any secular text. So the very foundation of the United States of America was indeed to be one nation under God, a Christian nation.
But the Founding Fathers also wanted to have a separate... Hang on. The Founding Fathers also wanted to have a clear separation between church and state for the United States, didn't they?
That's the point,
not really. They
okay, well, that's interesting. So, Andrew, am I not right in assuming that, Andrew?
You're not right in assuming that. They didn't want an establishment clause at the federal level for a national religion. Yeah. States were allowed to have their own religions, and they did. They did have their own religions. She's absolutely right. You couldn't vote in many of the states unless you declared that you were part of the faithful. Like, this is just all revisionist history. We have the 10th Amendment, which says...
And you know what's crazy? That's an atheist argument as well. Separation of church and state. And again, we come down to something even deeper. The power of force. If any other groups and religions take power in the United States, believe me, they're not going to be using this thing called the Constitution.
That if these powers are not given to the United States government, they go to the prospective states. The states had their own religious institutions. Mr. Viper over here is a complete liar, always has been. And his book, he's full of it.
The concept of the separation of church and state in our founding documents.
The same name Jesus said.
It's
not hard to say, Andrew. It's not very Christian. It's not very Christian to keep hurling personal insults at
bro, we don't want to hear that.
Another person on the panel, is it?
Well, then take it up with Jesus. He called guys like this.
I don't remember Jesus saying, "Thou shalt go out and call everyone you don't like a doofus."
Vipers.
He did. He called them vipers all the time. I don't know what to tell you. He did.
He called conservative religious authorities those words.
The people who are trying to utilize rigorism against Christians, it would be exactly who Christ would call vipers.
I'm using Jesus against hypocrites.
All right, let me ask John. All right, hang on. Don't all talk at the same time, please. John, let me ask you this. You believe that Christian nationalism is against the American Constitution. Why?
Because the founders were very specific about not wanting to have an official state religion. Our official religion is all and or none. The problem is the movement of Christian nationalism is as against the Bill of Rights as they are against the actual teachings of Jesus, which is why you will never see our right-wing friends fighting to put any Jesus quotes on any buildings. Jesus never mentions abortion. God asserts that a fetus is property in Exodus 21, that a woman's life has more value in his eye. God gives abortion.
That's true, bro. This dude is basically a Bible twister. This dude is basically a Bible twister. And he said, I'm not a Democrat, but when the Democratic candidate Kamala Harris was running, he was just simply supporting it. He wants to be in this position where you can never just lock him in. He want to be a spectrum, I guess, just floating around with a lot of different things.
Tips for pregnant unfaithful wives in Numbers chapter 5. That's why abortion's not banned in Jesus' religion. And that's why God and Jesus and Moses and Paul and the prophets never once condemn ending pregnancies or say what the penalty for ending a pregnancy should be. Am I saying Jesus was pro-abortion? No. What I'm saying is for 45 years in my country, Piers, right-wing Christians have been groomed to prioritize something Christ never talked about and then vote against all the things he actually commanded. Jesus was against the death penalty more than once, not a fan of killing the sinner, never mentioned abortion, and yet, you can't run for office as a Republican unless you want to criminalize abortion, have the government force citizens to be pregnant against their will, pretend that comes from Jesus, and also think Jesus was wrong.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Protecting baby? Now we're discussing whether or not protecting babies is okay. Oh my God. It's just crazy at this point.
About not executing people.
Isabel, I get the feeling you don't entirely agree.
No, not one iota of me agrees with that statement, Piers, and nor should any
Where does the Bible ban it?
In Scripture. It starts with a very simple commandment in the 10 Commandments: "Thou shalt not murder." Let's take off our Catholic hats for a
Judaism
second.
does not consider a fetus to be a full life. Abortions are legal and free in Israel right now.
In biomedical sciences, and science is unequivocally clear that human life begins at conception. There is a genetically unique individual
The Bible
who has never
disagrees.
and will never exist again, that is a living organism. And if that species is in fact a human being, which it is, it should be required that we give that person the same dignity, respect, and human rights of any other person on earth. This is this toxic empathy twisting concept of the American church that has been hijacked by left-wing politics, where you can look at a human being waving at you on an ultrasound, just like my daughter did at 11 weeks old, where I could count every single bone in her hand.
No, see, anti-YouTube threat. I loved your nickname. Don't get me wrong, anti-YouTube threat. I love your nickname, but now you're trolling. No such thing as a right-wing or left-wing Christianity. There's the woke wing, and you can see them right here in Appleton all over with a little rainbow flag. Yeah, they are.
As did my son.
Tell you that the death penalty should be outlawed from society because human beings should have rights and dignity.
Said that.
Also look at a baby and tell you that that child is worthy of literal human sacrifice. It is disgusting to me.
Okay, Andrew.
And I'm just saying that the Bible never bans it. Jesus bans the death penalty. This is a movement that doesn't fight for the stuff Jesus talks about. They fight for the stuff conservative Christians prioritize.
I mean,
okay, let me bring Andrew.
Executions, yes.
Let me bring Andrew in here. Andrew.
Yeah, so the thing is funny is like he keeps on citing Israel as though that has not become a much more secular nation. There are Orthodox Jews who fight over abortion all the time.
Religion.
All the time, Orthodox Jews fight over abortion because of the idea of ensoulment, sir. And what does your Catholic dogma say about ensoulment? What does it say? Your Catholic dogma, you, the self-described Catholic, what does your dogma say about the ensoulment of a fetus? Can you tell me?
I was raised Catholic, sir, but my church is against the teachings of Christ on many areas.
Answer my question. What does the dogma of the Catholic Church, which you described yourself as a quote, progressive Catholic?
The Catholic Church says conception. The Bible says first breath. My point here is that the Bible does not ban it.
Catholic who
Y'all have
doesn't believe in your dogma.
prioritized something the Bible never forbids, and you vote and legislate against the stuff Christ actually talked about.
So let me get this right. You're a progressive Catholic that doesn't believe in your own dogma.
Andrew,
is that right? You don't believe in your own dogma?
I don't really know if the Pope would consider me a Catholic anymore. No, I think the church is wrong about a lot of things, Andrew. Some of us go beyond it.
Progressive Catholic.
Because that's how I was raised. Let me ask you a question.
Catholic.
Andrew,
Because you were trying to give credibility to a Democrat. That's why.
Andrew, does God knowingly ensoul fetuses that he knows are going to be aborted?
According to Catholic dogma, yes.
People. Jeremiah,
so God puts a soul in a baby that he knows is going to be. So God puts a soul in a baby that he knows will be aborted.
Do you realize that by your logic, you would be denying the omnipotence of God, that God does not know you're going to die before you die? Do you believe that? You just said Jesus Christ is God.
I'm not denying that at all. I'm asking you, does God put a soul? Does God put a soul in a fetus?
Hey, come on, Pierre. Let it have it. The dude is getting. Look at me, uncomfortable, side to side. He's getting uncomfortable. Hang
on. I want to ask John a question, just to round things off here, because we mentioned Charlie Kirk a lot. I watched a lot of the Charlie Kirk service, and I found a lot of it profoundly moving, I have to say. Not least of all, the crowd.
Well, I think you have a point, and to you to trust. See, he's not Christian. No such thing as left-wing or right-wing Christians. I think you have he is a Christian. Well, he's a self-proclaimed Christian. You're right. I think what really... that's a good point. What is a Christian, right? Because I can say I'm a Christian, but I don't practice Christianity. Does that make me a Christian? I think you have a good point there.
Themselves. I did not get the feeling I was at some, full-on political rally. Trump did what Trump does, and he obviously made some of it political. But actually, most of the speakers, as I think Isabel said, really talked up other things that Charlie Kirk stood for. But the overriding feeling I got was of a religious ceremony here, paying tribute to somebody who, at the forefront of everything he stood for, was his Christian faith. And the one thing I can absolutely guarantee as a consequence of the brutal murder of Charlie Kirk.
Good point, Matt. I think you have a great point there. I will agree that maybe there isn't left or right Christianity, but there is a correct or incorrect way to interpret the scripture. Yep, I think that's a good point as well.
Is that I think there will be a definite increase in the number of young people identifying as Christians, and they will probably identify as Christian conservatives. I mean, that, John, I think is almost an inevitable consequence of what happened. What do you think?
I don't care what they call themselves. I wish Christians would follow, believe in, and fight for the things Jesus actually talked about, as opposed to the things conservative Christians have been groomed to fight for and prioritize, which often have nothing to do with the teachings of Christ. There is no Jesus-based defense of Donald Trump support. You look at immigration alone, you have to reject God of the entire Old Testament, who commanded us to treat the alien as one of our own. You have to reject Jesus, who said that the way you treat the immigrant is the way you treat him. I need someone to explain to me why Donald Trump's right and God and Jesus are wrong. I don't care how people identify.
Okay,
I love many conservative Christians, and I'm not talking about the conservatives. I'm talking about the right wingers.
All right, hang on, Andrew, explain that.
Logic. Yeah, it's the same exact logic that he used when he was raising money for Kamala Harris, who said we have to have secure borders, told Guatemalans can't come into the nation, and said, quote, I did this now as justification because otherwise I would look like a hypocrite, because she was the lesser of two evils. We can use the exact same argument. Yeah. The exact same argument. It's the lesser of two evils to have a wide open border where human trafficking can occur.
No one called for a wide open border.
Drugs can come.
No one called for that.
You're
bearing false witness.
They did. They literally just did. California, Oregon, New York State, they'll all run with the policy century state. It's an open border policy.
You did. You said the religious refugees. We should look at them as religious refugees and just be totally
Jesus
accepting.
Calls for an open border,
That's what you said
Jesus
we should do and how Christians should behave.
God called for an open border, and Ronald Reagan called for an open border and amnesty.
Because, sir, you're a hypocrite.
I haven't
the very thing you accuse us of.
No, I'm not.
You yourself did.
Why is Jesus wrong about the border,
Kamala Harris, who had the same,
Why is Jesus wrong?
Border policies.
Dude, she was going to hurt less people, and it's been proven by the way.
No, she would have hurt more people
overseas
with human trafficking.
That would be alive if USA.
Hang on.
She would have hurt.
You know the thing about the border, debate, which makes me laugh. Today, 2 clips have gone viral on X. And it's a Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton both talking about the southern border in a way that today...
Have you guys listened to some of this old Democrat talking point regarding immigration? Oh, my God, bro. They sound worse than Trump, man. They sound much worse than Trump.
Today, the woke left would describe.
Yeah, you can love immigrant, but you have to stay over there in your country. Does that make sense? I love you as an immigrant, but stay there in your country. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Speaking in a fascist way about illegal immigrants. And that just shows me there's a lot of hypocrisy.
The left called them that back in the 90s, Piers.
A lot of hypocrisy on all sides. But
back in the 90s.
It certainly used to be the norm for Democrat leaders to talk in a way that they now pretend is talking like a fascist, which doesn't reflect.
And Ronald Reagan called for amnesty and open borders, Piers.
It was a mistake. Hey, just give it to him. It was a huge mistake.
Ronald Reagan also said a country without a strong border is not a country.
He didn't call for open borders.
But Ronald
what are you
Reagan
talking about?
He did call for
That's
open borders. Ronald Reagan's argument was, let him come over here and work.
He didn't.
Reagan also said, if there's open borders.
What?
Piers, your viewers can Google this. Reagan said when they're done working here, they can go back home.
John, Reagan literally said,
that's not
if a country doesn't have a strong border, it's not a country. Right?
Yes.
That is not
Reagan used the term, and Reagan gave amnesty to millions. My question is, why is Donald Trump right and God and Jesus are wrong?
Well, if you get the hell out of that bullshit, bro. Bro, this is his mantra in this debate. This is where he wanna just stay. He doesn't wanna just go through each statement and just going back and forward into a debate. That's why he overtalk. He doesn't really want to get into that debate. He doesn't want to, guys.
Why is Kamala right and God and Jesus are wrong?
No, you're not answering the question, Andrew. Why are God and Jesus wrong on abortion?
First of all,
I'm not a Democrat, bro. It's not going to hurt me.
Abortion is very, very clearly outlined in both Catholic Church and Orthodox
All right, let's not get back into that. Let's not get back into
bad news for you.
Yeah, I think you have a good point, Matt. I think that, to be honest, there's a big risk to interpret Jesus saying he fulfilled the law, as meaning we don't have to follow any of the, because then we can ignore morals like Ten Commandments. Yeah, hey, Ten Commandments is the best. I think the Ten Commandments is the best way to just run a Christian society. I think you put a Ten Commandment, this is a starting point to just run a Christian society. At some point, I want all 50 states to have their Ten Commandment as a starting point of how they base the laws. Otherwise, none of this will make sense. All the religions, all the cultures can come in and just basically just change everything.
On the abortion debate, I want to end, Isabel, by asking you, when you saw Erica Kirk and her address at her husband's memorial, I mean, I got a sense of somebody feeling a very, very strong conviction to take over from him and becoming almost immediately an incredibly powerful advocate, actually, for the Christian conservative right.
I think you're exactly right, Piers. You know, many people are saying that perhaps no one influenced the culture of young men over the past decade as much as Charlie Kirk. I wholeheartedly agree with that. In returning to traditional masculinity and embracing objective truth and submitting to God in a culture telling you that your faith is oppressive in some way. Now there's this new frontier in the culture war conversation with young women, where the angry leftist feminist rhetoric that has just destroyed women's happiness over my lifetime in America is starting to lose its shackle on young women. I think Erica Kirk is really becoming a powerful voice for godliness, for morality, for forgiving of your enemies, for embracing a soft femininity. I'm incredibly excited to see her in this new role at Turning Point USA. And I have to
just end by saying that as an Irish Catholic myself, it was very noticeable to me that whether you're on the American Christian right or the American Christian left, in the end, actually God decided it would be an Irishman that would win the Ryder Cup. So there you go.
What the hell are you talking about, bro? Wow. Hey, shout out to Pierre for that stupid joke, I guess, at the end. We're going to move to another debate. It's going to be Andrew Wilson debating Vince Wilson and Corbyn on Trump collecting power. That's going to be interesting. I love Andrew Wilson when he goes against some of these leftists. Also, the rattlesnake is going to be in this one as well.
He has the authority, but it's not denying the fact that he has subverted the will of Gavin Newsom.
I'll concede the point that Newsom definitely did not want Trump to federalize his National Guard or send in the Marines. That's not in question.
Okay, so then Trump subverted the will of the governor then.
That's